All right, Shane, how about this one? The Iron Bowl, we teased it just a minute ago there. Alabama, 19.5-point favorite on the road in Jordan-Hare Stadium. The over-under, 55.5 points. Alabama won last year 42-13. Who do you like in a matchup?
Who do I like? Mike, I mean, come on now. I mean, I'd be crazy to get on here and tell you that the Auburn Tigers are going to upset the Crimson Tide. You'd call me nuts. They say Shay's drank too much of that damn eggnog already. Look at him. He's fell off the wagon. Brother, let me glaring fact here, okay? Nobody has beaten Nick Saban more than the Auburn Tigers. Think about this. Nick Saban hasn't won in Auburn in almost 6 years. Think about that stat for a second. And I'm not saying Auburn's had some great teams come through there. They haven't. Alabama always has. But they find ways to win games. And sometimes, I mean, they call it Miracle of Jordan-Hare for a reason. Because they weren't supposed to win the game. They're not supposed to win this game. Of course, Alabama's not playing the football that we're used to, Mike. Florida, I mean, you think about it. Even the Florida Gators, when they started, they started this trend that Alabama is human. Texas A&M was able to knock them off. Last week, Arkansas got within a touchdown of them. Tennessee was even up in the second half. So, I mean, this isn't the same Alabama team we've seen in years past. But they're still good, brother. They're still good. They're breaking records, man. They got about 15 receivers on that team that could start in the NFL tomorrow. It's just this team is riddled with talent. They just haven't really been able to put it together all this season. But I think they're getting closer, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I'm still worried about the defense, but the good news is Auburn's not that good on offense. So that's why I don't think this is really going to be a game. I hate to say it. It's the Iron Bowl. It's always fun to watch, but I think it's closer than the experts say. So I like Auburn with the points. However, I've got Alabama winning 35, Auburn 24.
Man, how many times, Shane, are we going to have to hear Gary talk up Bryce Young and these receivers?
I know.
And we may have to mute the Iron Bowl this year if it goes according to how you just laid it out there, Shane. And you know, I give Auburn a little bit more credit than you, though, because I know they're dinged up. I know they're prideful. Their pride's hurting after blowing another double-digit lead. Brian Harsin, there's speculation how long he's even going to last at this point. We've covered all that, but I don't know, Shane. This is just one of those games where it doesn't matter the momentum of each side. Both these teams are going to show up. Like you said, Jordan-Hare Stadium, it's a wild place. Anything can happen. Of course, they've lost in Jordan-Hare to Mississippi State and Georgia this year, so it's not like the magic has not necessarily been there this year. Maybe a little bit different story if Bo Nix was playing, because he was, outside of that A&M game, he was having a really good year. Had he been healthy and playing in this one, I may have even picked the Auburn Tigers to pull off the upset. This has got to be the Tank Bigsby show. This team, Shane, it just reminds me of, I don't want to call them out and say they're mentally weak here, but, it just seems like if one or two things go wrong, it just, the house crumbles in on them. And that's what we've seen in recent weeks. And that's what Bryce Young, Jameson Williams, John Mechie, those receivers you mentioned, that's what they can do. B-Rob, Brian Robinson, the mini Jerome Buss back there at running back. I mean, those guys will punch you in the mouth. So Auburn's going to have to force some turnovers to stay in this thing. TJ Finley's going to have to play the game of his life. And believe it or not, Shade, I got the exact same score as you. So I think Auburn does keep it close, but in the end, Alabama will pull away. But again, like I said, if Bo Nix was playing this game, I might pick Auburn to win it. But he's not, obviously. So I'm going Alabama 35, Auburn 24. And, I think Alabama, they're winning close. There's something to be said for that. But this just isn't the same old Alabama. If it was, I'd probably pick them to win this game by 3 touchdowns. You know what?
Yeah, it's a scary game to gamble on, in my opinion, because Alabama is one of those teams that you expect 3-4 score leads, but somehow they keep mismanaging and letting teams get back in it, not to win. But I'm just talking about gambling. So they're just a scary team to bet on right now. So I'm not going to put any money near this game. But let me ask you, what does Auburn have to do to win this game? I mean, if the stars are aligned, everything's perfect. What does Auburn need to do to keep Alabama's offense in check and maybe be a little bit more aggressive on that side of the ball? What do we need? What's the recipe?
I go back to the LSU tape, Shane. Remember that game? They were just blitzing the hell out of Bryce Young. They were knocking him around. They were getting to him. And that was an LSU team that was playing without their starting cornerbacks, Ricks and Stingley, out for the season. So it's not like they were just playing lockdown corners here and they couldn't do anything with it. So, that was the key issue there for Auburn against Mississippi State. Couldn't get to Will Rogers for whatever reason. Weren't putting on the blitz. You cannot sit back and let Bryce Young pick you apart because he'll do it. He's done it to everybody. I think you got to just study the hell out of that LSU tape, see what they did, and just come after him because that really seemed to rattle his cage a little bit. I think Arkansas tried to do some of that, but they just didn't have the same players that LSU does, and I think Auburn's got some of those guys. So that's the key on the defensive side of the ball, and on offense, it's got, like I said, it's got to be Tank Finley, man. Let's run him 30, 35 times in this one and just put the team on his back, and maybe he can get something done for you and limit the possessions that Alabama's going to have in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.